on behalf of Tanya's father, who went to hospital and left last night. She's very disappointed.
Did you have anything you want to ask him? I can translate. He says he's going to Indonesia next month. They invite him to Jakarta. There's one Buddhist centre opening and they invite him to come.
In Jakarta or Jakarta?
I'm not sure the exact address. I've never been to Indonesia.
I've never been to Kangaroo.
You can read it out. I'll do my best.
Okay.
Just read it out loudly.
All right. Firstly, she'd like me to give my humble respects to Obajan Liem and yourself. My son Tamniko has guided me very skillfully. I have had 3 rains at Bodhinyana and 2 rains at Santi in the distant past. I have developed some samatha and good samadhi, but in the past I did not receive any guidance on investigative meditation until recently when Tamniko came here. Just now, I feel that something has changed, that I've woken up from a big sleep. There are all of these doorways in front of me, and I know that I can turn the handles. It's very exciting. I'm just at the beginning, but I seem to be understanding things, and things I have read before, once passed over, now have some meaning for me. Yet, there is nothing out there for what I need right now. I need guidance for the actual moment of death. Taniko has encouraged me, and I know how to deal with pain now. It's not easy, and I feel like a child, but I've got a bit of an idea. Taniko said that when the mind and body separate at the moment of death, not to go towards the light as that is going towards pleasant feelings. Yet I know my investigative ability is very weak, so I want to know what to do. I am willing to work on this, but of course it depends on how much I can develop by then. I offer my greatest respects also to Ajahn Mahabua, who has recently passed.
He says normally when somebody reaches the end of their life, they should be able to just accept in their mind this is the truth of our existence as human beings, is that this existence is impermanent and it must end, can't last forever. However, it's not unusual that when we do reach that point, the mind, the heart cannot yet accept this truth. It can't really see and accept it. The reason it can't accept this truth is because of what we call attachment to the sense of self. The Buddha's word was atawa upatana. It's interpreting everything in terms of a self, meaning attaching to this body and mind as a self and giving importance to that perception of self all the time, always interpreting and seeing everything from the point of view of a self. As long as we can't see that, then we're going to keep suffering because we'll feel like we're going to lose something. We're separating from our body when we die, we separate from everything we love and like in the world. So there's this sense of a self who's dying, passing away, separating from everything. We suffer with that idea and that thought. But the remedy is to bring the mind to investigate this truth, start looking internally at this body and mind to see what it is, to see its true nature. And one of the meditations the Buddha gave for this is the contemplation of the 32 parts, component parts of the body, where one fixes one's mind on each part of the body. So start with the hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, skin, then go on to the internal organs, fixing one's attention on each body part until one gets to know the reality of that part, that it is impermanent, unstable, it doesn't last, and it's not self. It's not something that we can control, make do what we want, or hold on to forever. These are component parts made up of the things of nature, elements and things of nature which are beyond our control, we don't really own. When you see this in each body part in turn, it changes the perception of the mind. We start to see the body more as just made up of component parts and elements of nature, and that sense of ownership, the delusion of ownership or delusion of self, starts to fade away as we contemplate that. As long as we can't contemplate that, or we haven't contemplated that, we're always going to be caught into fear of death, because we identify with this body, and we say, oh, this body is me, mine. When I die, I'm going to lose it, there'll be pain and I'll lose it. So we get afraid, and we're afraid just of the very thought. But if we develop mindful awareness and focus it on the body more and more, then the mind will come to see this truth, and that fear will fade away. And you could say then that this practice of mindfulness directed to the body is like an antidote to the attachment to the self, of sense of self, and an antidote to the fear that comes with that. And so the mind becomes free, it becomes happy and free, because it's no longer deluded, no longer attached.
Respectfully, Ajahn, Tara has been following this practice of the contemplating the body parts for several months. I think perhaps she was wondering how to keep that going at the moment of death itself. Is that possible? And it's that moment where she can no longer be in her body controlling that investigative process, that she wants to know, does one stay in that contemplative state as one is dying, or is there something else that one shifts the focus to?
He said, probably no need to worry so much about something like that. What do I do at the very last moment of my life? Have a more relaxed and an approach where you're taking it a little bit more easy. Maybe just try and use all the different experiences of this time, the body and the state of the body. All of these are like a teaching. They're reminding us of this deeper truth that I was just talking about, the truth of the fact that this body is not self, it's not something we can own or control. Every day there's many things teaching us about the imperfections of this body, the lack of completeness in this body, in the sense that, say, every day we eat and drink, but it doesn't stop there. We digest, then we have to urinate, we have to excrete the waste out. Often there's pain and discomfort associated with that. It's smelly, it's messy. So just something as ordinary as that every day is teaching us about the imperfections of the body. We have aches and pains, we have bodily processes that sometimes bring us pain, discomfort, and so on. All of this is just teaching us on a daily basis anyway, so we just keep reflecting on that. And what's it teaching us? It's teaching us that this body is ultimately, it's not something we can really control, make do what we want, or own in the way that we usually think we can. So we have to keep training our mind to see the impermanence of this body. It's changing, it's aging, it's never in a fixed state. We're always having to eat and then go to the toilet. We always have to rest and wash this body. You're constantly changing posture and so on. So the body is an impermanent, unstable thing that ultimately is not ours to make do what we want. And we should extend that reflection to see everything else in the world in the same light. All the things around us, other people, material objects, they're also unstable, they're also unsatisfactory in that way, and ultimately they're not self. If we keep reflecting on that, that truth will absorb into our heart, and this is where peace arises. When the mind drops into a state of peace where it finally accepts and understands this truth, then it won't be afraid or worried or agitated anymore. Usually we're caught into a state where we're not really understanding or seeing truth. We don't see that the nature of this body is that it's imperfect. You might even say it's something that's dirty, in the sense you can't maintain it in a pristine, healthy, perfect condition all the time. It gets dirty, it gets ill, it literally gets dirty. So we have to do what we can to clean it up, to look after it. And so the Buddha, he didn't say, just ignore your body, let it go, don't do anything, don't maintain it, feed it, give it medicine when it's sick. He didn't teach that. He said you should look after your body, the best you can. Give it the best nutrition you can, the best medication you can, look after it, keep it healthy, exercise it, give it a good environment and so on. But while you're doing that, maintain this investigation of the truth, just coming to know and come to terms with the truth that in the end this body is subject to degeneration and decline. However well we look after it, however well we nurse it, we can't keep it in a perfect state. That's impossible. And the more the mind comes to see this truth, that the truth of nature is that all things are coming to degeneration and decline in the end. The more the mind comes to see that, accept that, then that's where it will become peaceful. So even if we do our best to look after an illness, say, we have to come to accept the fact that you can't nurse a body and stop it from getting worse, indefinitely. Sooner or later it will start to get worse. And it's just like ordinary things as well. You have a house or a building like this. One day you might come in and you drop something dirty on the floor, some oil or something. It'll spill on the floor. You might go and try and clean it up the best you can, but probably get a stain. Over time, with more use of the building and the carpet and the floor, you get more stains. You'll clean it, you'll do your best to look after it, but in the end you can't stop it from gradually wearing out and looking, say, dirty or shabby in the end, because that's the nature of life. Life is like that. We can't stop these things from happening. Said the most important thing with illness, whether it's we're looking after our own illness or somebody else's illness, is not to be impatient, not to get heated up in your mind, I've got to cure this, I've got to get them better, because that always fuels more worry, more doubt, more uncertainty, more agitation. If you do your duty of nursing yourself if you're ill, or nursing someone else if your friend or family member is ill, do it in a relaxed way where you're just doing your duty in a relaxed way and not thinking too much about the outcome, or impatient for them to get well, get well soon, get better soon, but just accept, there's this illness, I'll have to look after it, and go at a steady pace. And it's one of the things that makes our illness worse and the symptoms worse is worry. We're worrying all the time about this illness. How long will it last? Will it get worse? When will it get better? And the very worry, actually, that anxiety makes our body weaker, and we actually the body deals with the illness worse because of the anxiety. So the more relaxed we can make our mind, more peaceful, then the better the nursing of that illness will be. Just as in nature we talk about decline and degeneration, and the things of nature are of the tendency to decline, but similarly nature also has ways of providing cures, remedies, maintaining the body. The body has an immune system, has many ways that sometimes illness can be cured, or we can get better from illness. So you have to look at that illness in a balanced way, not just assume it's all downhill. Maybe there'll be some downhill, maybe it'll get better as well. When you look at it in a balanced way, then you won't get caught up into the worrying or the feeling depressed about the illness. The way the Buddha taught us to deal with suffering is to know it, to know and understand, this is suffering, this is the nature of suffering, it's like this. What we tend to do is not that. We don't just know it and learn from it, we tend to identify with it, say, am I suffering? And we grasp it, and then we really suffer inside. So you might have the suffering of the body, and you identify with it as my suffering, then you've got mental suffering as well at the same time. It says in the time of the Buddha, a lot of the medical treatment people had was very simple and very in touch with nature, like herbal treatments, herbal remedies. The monk's life emphasises that. When we ordained as monks, we're given allowances to use the very basic kind of remedies that are available without having to buy something or go somewhere. He just commented on it. There's one doctor in China, in Kunming, who we know of, who is becoming very well known. Many monks have gone to look after their illness with him, and he just uses herbal treatments, Chinese herbal treatments, very successfully. So there's a lot to be said from also looking at, the herbal side, the herbal remedies in life, as well as the more normal sort of scientific medicines. There tends to be two parallel healthcare systems in the world. There's what we call the normal system based on science, Western science, as you'll find in all the hospitals and clinics. There's also what you might call the ancient system, particularly from China, based on herbal remedies and ancient knowledge, and often that's sort of seen as second rate or second place, but there still seems to be some place for it in the world. There's been success. Some people find it does help them. There's a few monks who've had disease even as bad as cancer. There's one monk, Ajahn Dun, who I think some of you might have heard of before. He had cancer of the colon or the intestine, and he did have surgery done. Intestine was shortened, cut out, and so he has to go to the toilet very often now. But he didn't quite fully cure it. But he went to see this Chinese doctor and got some Chinese medicine which did seem to finally cure it. He seems to have got better now.
Given that most of us are headed for rebirth after this one, is there some way to remain mindful through that process of dying and death as one moves into the next birth? Or is the death of this body too overwhelming to maintain that mindful meditation to move through the process?
Says the way you can understand about birth, or what we call rebirth, is by understanding your mind in the present moment in this life, and where its attachments lie will determine what happens after your death and where your future birth will be. So look at your life as it is now. Where are you attached? What are you attached to? What are you linked to and bound to? What are you entwined with in this life? And that will bring you to, in your next life, you'll be, that entwining process, that attachment will bring you back to those things in the next life, because it's a bind, so you come back to it.
How do you detach from these entanglements and entwinements before it's too late?
This is the purpose of the practice, is to bring your mind to peace through meditation, through the practice, bringing your mind to what we call internal seclusion from its attachments. What the peaceful mind is a mind that is free from worry, agitation, concern about things, and the process of what we call mental proliferation, where it's constantly creating and attaching new things out of its moods, if you can keep practicing bringing your mind to peace and experiencing this inner peace, well, that's what you're doing. You're letting go of your attachments by doing that. It says the way to develop this experience of inner peace or inner seclusion is developing the quality of mindfulness, sati, and particularly with all your sense contact. So all the time we're seeing things, hearing things, tasting, touching, smelling, and internally we're remembering things, and we have ideas, concepts pop up into our head. One of the reasons we're not peaceful and the mind gets very tired and very weakened is because it's constantly attaching to all this information of the senses, constantly reacting to the senses. We like things and dislike things, and we're constantly building up attachments to what we see, hear, and so on. But if you develop this quality of mindfulness, inner mindfulness, applied to sense contact, then you start to experience this sense of seclusion. And this sense of seclusion, it's not that you necessarily always have to physically remove yourself from the world, because that's impossible. You have to live in the world, but as you establish mindfulness, you're letting go of your old habits and tendencies of constantly attaching to each sense contact, reacting with aversion or pleasure. So your mind starts to get a sense of detachment or separation, and this is where peace arises. And this can even be, in your daily life, getting involved with the world, but establishing mindfulness as you're doing that. So you have this sense of inner seclusion, even though physically and outwardly you're still involved with things. Says it's good to come and discuss the Dhamma like this, because sometimes we have some misunderstandings, some misperceptions. It said the Buddha lived in the world and participated in the world, so the aim of the Buddhist path isn't to, say, physically remove yourself from the world or something that you might say is abnormal like this, but it's to understand the world and how to be peaceful within the world. And he began the conversation saying, one of the ladies said, we should sit meditation to gain samadhi. And he's saying, really, samadhi is a quality of mind, this peace of mind that comes when this quality of knowing, mindfulness, is established, and it's not restricted to one posture. So we tend to think of meditation, well, I'll go and sit meditation in that posture, but really it's a quality of mind that can be present in all postures, sitting, standing, walking, lying down. And it's this quality of the mind establishing mindfulness, not getting caught into its normal reactions and the feelings we have with all our sense contact and the different experiences we have in our daily life. If you keep practicing and keep developing this mindfulness, well, this is what becomes samadhi, you might say the continuous presence of mindful awareness in all postures with all our sense contact. And this is what he says gives rise to the sense of inner peace, or being secluded from suffering and the causes of suffering. So the Buddha's word was citta viveka, means the seclusion of the mind that is free from mental defilements, meaning all the stressful, negative thoughts and mind states which often are bothering us. The mind is free from them because it's established mindfulness and it's letting go of anything that would cause it suffering. It says it's good to do regular Dhamma practice, so either if you have the chance as a group, come together as a group, do some practice, listen to Dhamma, meditate, or regular practice on your own. If you can't practice in a group, at least in your home on a regular basis, try to practice Dhamma. Just saying, Dhamma practice, you can't pin it down to just one thing. Often people say, this is my Dhamma practice, and just refer to one aspect of it. Really, it's a whole system of personal development, personal education, learning from your experience in life, particularly learning what causes suffering and what causes peace and happiness, and understanding that for yourself through your own experience, learning through your experience. And you're learning from what happens, both the good things, the bad things, you turn all of that into something that you can learn from, or a lesson in life. So even say when you might say in a bad mood, and it leads you have an argument with your spouse or someone in your family, you can learn from that. When you're in a good mood and things seem to go well, you learn from that, and you learn what leads to what. So if you are in a bad mood, you might observe or look a bit more deeply, say what's causing this bad mood. Say you feel stressed in some way or negative or something, maybe there's a cause. Maybe it's something internal in your body, you're just feeling not particularly well in yourself, your health is not good that day, or you feel tired. Might be a cause for your mind to become a little bit weaker or stressed easily. Sometimes it's environmental, something external in where you're living or in your life has come up that's affecting you. But you're learning from your experience what leads to what. And you're also learning from the good things, say like when you do feel peaceful, feel content and ease in yourself. Well, what's causing that? Where's that come from? Or sometimes just appreciating it. When you do feel peaceful and at ease, today I feel peaceful and at ease, and you recognize that, you notice that, because often we overlook these things. That much of the Dhamma practice is developing this quality of bringing up mindful awareness of yourself in different situations, and then looking, also investigating what leads to what causes what. Another thing he said is you have to learn how to strengthen your mind. The sort of comparison is like, I guess, somebody who's physically weak. When you're physically weak, there's things you can't lift up because they feel too heavy. He said you have to strengthen your mind in that way, the way someone who's physically weak might build up their energy and their strength through exercise so they can lift up heavier objects. Mentally you have to do that. You have to improve your practice, improve your mindfulness and your wisdom so that you can lift up the heavy things, meaning that you can understand where suffering is coming from and how to let go of it yourself. If we can't do that, then we're always, as it were, weak in our mind, and we have different experiences and they overwhelm us, and we don't know why we're suffering. Where's that suffering come from? We don't understand. We have to improve our ability to look and learn from our suffering, and then we'll be able to overcome it.